Ever since I was a kid, I've been a fan of the Big Easy. I love it down south in Louisiana. They have wonderful cuisine. I love the Creole and Cajun style foods. I love crawfish, crawfish étouffée, crawfish boils, all that stuff. Big fan. But when I learned that they were making rice whiskey down near the Big Easy, well, just outside of Lafayette, that's when I was like, nah, maybe not. Maybe we would pump the brakes and say, well, how far is too far? Well, we're going to find out today because people have been singing the praises of JT Meleck. It's a distillery, like I said, just outside of Lafayette, and they are making 100% rice whiskey with rice that is grown right there on their farm. So we're going to let these open up a little bit. We'll talk about them, taste them, and find out if this stuff is a novelty or if it's actually pretty good stuff. My name is Ryan. Welcome back to the channel. So happy to see you here today. Appreciate your viewership and support. Hey, if it's not your first time stopping by the channel, maybe hit that subscribe button, kick your shoes off and stay a while. We'd love to get to know you. And check out our free Discord. We got wonderful people in there. We do events all the time. We were actually just in there hanging out, chatting last night for no good reason. Just because we like each other and like talking about whiskey. It was fun. So check that out. Speaking of which, big shout out to our Discord and Patreon member Randy for letting me taste from his bottles today before I go make a purchase. That way I can try these out risk-free. Appreciate that, man. So let's chat about who JT Meleck is as a distillery. So they're all family owned and operated and have been as a farm for many years. JT Meleck was originally the farmer who decided he wanted to grow rice there in the sort of swampy area of southern Louisiana. So they've been raising rice and now crawfish as well, which is kind of cool because what do you think of when you think of like Louisiana style food? You probably think of rice and crawfish, yeah. So this is like they're hitting the trifecta now by throwing whiskey into the process. Now you got all your bases covered. And because of that, none of the grain is sourced from anywhere. It's all grown right there on the premises, on the family property. And that I do respect. I love that when a distillery is not just like, hey, I want to get into the distilling business, so let's source whiskey from MGP for 10 years while we kind of get our bearings, start making some vodka and stuff to sell on the side in the meantime. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but we've heard that story so many times, and it just seems, at this point, a little redundant. Because, I mean, you're going to have 10, 20 different distilleries or non-distilling producers out there saying, hey, we've got our bottle. It's a finished 95.5 rye from MGP. And then the next distillery over is like, yeah, here's our finished 95.5 rye from MGP. And then the next distillery over says, here's our finished 95.5 rye from MGP. It's like, okay, all right, we get it. MGP's got good stuff. Nothing wrong with that. But I do like when a story is a little more unique than that. You know? And this is definitely hitting high marks in that category. Let's get in here. What we have today are two of their base offerings, two of their core offerings. So we have their standard rice whiskey. This comes in at 96 proof and about 5 years old. Now this is southern heat, okay? This isn't Kentucky. I mean, we're going south, south, south. It's hot, it's muggy. So aging is different down there. I know a lot of people think of whiskey, they think of the age as being like a really big factor and being sort of this baseline across the whole industry, and it's not. It's a very variable thing. It's a fluctuating thing. You might say, dude, my favorite way to have Kentucky bourbon is at 8 to 9 years old. So when you hear of an Australian single malt and they're like, ours is 2 years old, you're thinking, that's terrible. Put it back in the barrel for 6 years. They'd be like, dude, if I put this back in the barrel in 6 years, I would have an empty barrel. It would all evaporate out and I'd be left with like tar in the bottom. So not every spirit is unilateral when it comes to age and what the preferred age is. It really depends on the climate that they're aging in. So this is 5 years old. And then we have over here, this is going to be the cast strength offering. And that one's high proof. The one that he's given me here is 128 proof. That's pretty hot, especially because on the website they said most of these are going to be between 118 and 123 proof, and this is coming in at 128, so that's like pretty hot for them. And a similar age statement on those, 4 to 5 years usually. So I'm wondering if the nose, I gotta admit, I'm not a huge fan of rice spirits like sake. I've tried sake many times, wanted to love it, just didn't. So I don't have the highest expectations when it comes to rice-based spirits. So I'm wondering if this is something that is going to immediately jump out to me on the nose as being a rice spirit. And I want to say I usually get like pineapple and sour off of rice-based things, like sake. But it's almost got, to me, sake has this sort of rancid side to it as well, like spoiled pineapple. And that's why I don't like it personally. But we'll see if this has any similarities to sake. Let's get in here. Yeah, I definitely do get a pineapple note, like canned pineapple chunks, you know? But I'm not getting the rancid side of things. I'm just getting that tropical pineapple-y note. Nose almost makes me think of like a pineapple Dum Dum sucker. I'm also getting a little bit of damp warehouse funk on the nose too. I think like this is gonna be a weird thing to get on the nose, I think, but it makes me think of pixie sticks. Like when you're inhaling a pixie stick and that fruity sour dust is like up in your nose when you're going in on it. It's kind of like that. Well, let's try it. Cheers. There's a nice sweet oak presence throughout all of it. It's not overwhelming, not big, not bold. I do get that pineapple note, but it comes way late. I'm talking like very end of the palate and then extended way into the finish is where I get that pineapple note. I get a more like candy sweetness up front, like the lick-a-stick in a Fun Dip. That kind of candy sweetness. The 96 proof, it's pretty light and it goes down really easy too. And it has some decent balance with a little bit of that tannic oak, just sort of riding the whole thing out. It's not big, doesn't overpower anything. It's just sort of there as a sort of framing work. That's not bad. I had low expectations, I'll be honest. I did have low expectations, but that is not bad. Candy sweetness, some sweet oak, a little bit of tropical fruit, that pineapple that comes around at the tail end of the experience. But I'm wondering how that same distillate is going to be different at a much higher proof point. More than 30 proof points higher, actually. And you can see that in the color here, which is a much deeper, darker brown, compared here to the 96, which is more golden. Golden, dark. Golden, dark. It's not super thick and sticky like a corn whiskey might be, but it does have some good viscosity to it clinging to the inside of the glass. A lot more oak presence on the nose of the cask strength, that's for sure. And with it, I'm getting those oak sugars coming out more, like your vanillas and a hint of cinnamon. It's strange, you know, we were getting more pineapple on the lower proof offering. This one, I actually think of like banana cream pudding on the nose. And dude, I love banana pudding. I know it's such like an old man thing to say, but I really do like banana pudding. I think it's Old Smoky that we were at Total Wine not too long ago. I got a couple of whiskeys, and on the way out the door, they had all their like tiny little samples up there at the front, and one of them was a like a banana pudding flavored moonshine for like $1.50 or whatever it was, and I was like, why not? And I drank that thing that night and I was like, oh my gosh, that's so good. Unashamedly, I was like, yeah, that's good. Anyways, I'm getting that same banana cream pudding note here on the nose of this, and I like it. Let's try it. Cheers. That's pretty killer. Okay, big punch of sweet banana cream up front. And then this wave of oak spice comes along behind it to immediately offset that sweetness, give it some balance. And then the two of them walk hand in hand, yin and yang, throughout the rest of the palate. But the finish is where those oak sugars really come to life and burst forward with some vanillas and caramels that ride out for a long time in that finish. That's freaking dynamite. Okay, that's... My expectations were down here and it delivered way up here. I'm liking that a lot. Yeah, that's hitting some great notes and hitting some good highs. Yeah, I would like to have a bottle of the cask strength now. I think that has earned itself a spot on my shelf. Okay, I'm in. You sold me. Let's talk about scores. I think the standard offering, the 96 proofer, has nothing to do with the proof point itself. You know, I have, especially the further I've come in my whiskey journey, a lot of times I'm starting to kind of dial back from the proof. It used to be like hazmats only, high proof stuff only. And we were talking about this in the Discord last night, actually. Karma Brady brought it up. But now that the further I get into it, the more I'm starting to rein it back and be like, high proof isn't always the right call. Some whiskeys just work better at lower proof points. So that's not necessarily a factor here, but I will say that the lower proof option for me didn't hit as many high points. And it has a lot to do with balance. So, you know, I think the higher proof version brought the sweetness, but it also offset it with a nice wave of oak spice. Those cinnamons and those oak sugars really came to life and burst forward. And we get some things that we tend to like off American whiskeys, like your caramel notes as well, because of that. So the lower proof one didn't have quite as much balance for me. I think that's going to land at around a 6.8. So it's at the upper end of maybe buy. You know, if you get down to some of those notes that I described, maybe buy it, try it out, see if you like it. But I think for me, the cask strength offering there, that one gets pretty high marks. It's like considerably better to my palate personally than their standard offering. I should note the MSRP for the standard offering is like 47 bucks. It's just under 50, I think. The single barrels, from what I can see, tend to vary, I think, based on location and maybe if someone did a pick of it or not, but you're usually looking between 60 and 70 bucks. So not really a huge step up in the price department. So for me, it's also going to get high marks for the approachability of that price point. I think I'm going to call it a 7.8. It is fantastic. Yeah, I recommend it. I'm really stingy with my 8s and above, and this is real close. It's real close. Like I said, recommend it, and I want it. I would like it on my shelf. Thanks again, Randy, for letting me try these. Appreciate it, brother. Hey, kick your shoes off, stay a while, hit the sub button. Leave me a comment down below if you've had JT Meleck and what you thought about their rice spirit as well. Cheers, my friends. May you live richly and get better with age, and I hope to catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.